Welcome everybody to the Yasmin breakdown today. How is everybody doing? How is everybody doing? Today, we have 5 stories that I have done some research on for you guys. And our first up is about Stefon Diggs' accuser. It's very interesting. I'm going to give you some facts of what's going on or what's been reported. But Stefon Diggs, who was a player, football player for the New England Patriots, we understand that he is famously that he has a child with Cardi B, right? So if no one knew him before then, we know him because of that. But what's very interesting is that he's being accused of making unwanted sexual advances by a man. This was something that I think his fans and certainly Cardi B fans probably were not expecting. Not to shame him or guilt trip him is just, something that's surprising for people, right? That's all I mean by that. But anyway, Christopher Griffith apparently accused Stefon Diggs of drugging him and making unwanted sexual advances during a May 2023 gathering at Diggs's Rockville, Maryland home. He alleges that Stefon exposed himself, put his tongue in Griffith's ear, and asked him to come to his room. Griffith says he rebuffed the kiss attempt. Now, it's just very interesting to me. But let me just keep giving you guys the story and I will explain to you my analysis and my opinion at the end of explaining what the story is. So Diggs first sued Griffith. Stefon sued him first for defamation, claiming that Griffith fabricated the story. Griffith then countersued, alleging sexual assault, and also claims Diggs conspired to have him attacked/killed to suppress his gay/bisexual secrets. Now, this week's development, Griffith says Diggs and his team arranged the May 2023 DC trip themselves, undercutting Diggs's argument that Griffith should have the travel records. Griffith's side also says they've turned over 100 plus pages of texts, DMs, and all as evidence, okay? Let me just go back to the beginning of this story. One of the things that continues to shock me just as a human being is that athletes are often walking around with a target on their back. I don't care if your name is Stefon Diggs. I don't care if your name is Steph Curry. I don't care if your name is Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett, whoever you are, okay? You have a target on your back because some people look at it as a easy money grab. If they can sue you, if they can compromise you in some way, if they can, if you impregnate somebody. Okay, I'm not saying everyone is coming after athletes, but I am saying that a lot of people do because they have the target on their back. So my question is always, or my concern is always, you have the most to lose. If you have the most to lose, why are you playing with people who have nothing to lose? And I'm just saying this generally and applying to this type of scenario, no matter who it is. Defamation is a real thing in terms of people falsely accusing people. And again, even bloggers, YouTubers, whoever, people, reporting on things, and you got to check and double check. You can't just make up something. But again, you have people out here who literally make shit up. It is a shocking thing to me. It is very shocking. So that's very interesting to me, the defamation angle. And I think that if these things aren't true, I do believe that they're going to be able to be proven in court. The third thing, a lot of people on TikTok I had seen over the, week or what have you, have talked about these 100 pages of texts and DMs as evidence. And I don't know what you say to somebody in 100 pages of texts that you're not trying to, really communicate with. You're not really trying to, I don't know, have a relationship with. Like, I don't know. I can't imagine 100 pages of texts and DMs if I'm not really trying to have a relationship. But I don't know what those 100 pages, I don't know what that entails. But that part of the story doesn't look good. But it takes me back to my first point, which is the person who has the most to lose has to be very careful about who they are in the sandbox with. You get to a point in your life, you simply can't play with everybody. It's a fact. You just can't. And when I see of these stories involving athletes or, extremely wealthy people where they're brought down by someone with nothing to lose, it always sort of shocks me because I'm sitting there and I'm asking myself, why do they not realize they have so much to lose? Now, something that confused me today, and I am going to take your comments in the chat. We're going to go through, please, make your comments in the chat and I'll read through some of them when we get to the end of the show. But I didn't understand this $10 million suit that involved Diggs' brother, Derez Diggs. And so this is very strange to me. Now, in the research that I did, it said Griffith just settled, and that's the image that I have up on the screen today. It's on complex.com. Griffith just settled. The terms are sealed, so we don't know what's inside. His $10 million suit against Diggs' brother, Derez Diggs, and a LA apartment complex over a 2023 alleged beatdown robbery. Okay, $100K plus in property was allegedly stolen, and that Griffith says was coordinated to silence him. That case is closed, but the main Stefon Diggs suit is not. And so this happened in 2023. And this other case about making unwanted sexual advances toward Stefon allegedly making sexual advances toward Christopher Griffith. This is the thing that I want to know. And I hope you guys are in the chat today and we can talk about this. You can't tell when somebody is litigious. You can't tell when somebody, and I'm not saying that this guy is or isn't, right? Really, because I don't know, dude. But what I'm saying is you can't tell when you have people who just want what you have. You can't tell. You know what I'm saying? So this guy not only sued Stefon's brother, and again, he could be in the right. I do not know. But in terms of how I see perceived danger and perceived threats, this person would come across to me as someone who is dangerous to me, right? And so it's very interesting that this guy has two cases against the Diggs brothers. And you have to ask yourself, why is this person wanting to associate with me? Why does this person want to associate with my family? Why, you know what I'm saying? You have a target on your back. And I would argue, even though this is a sports case, you guys, I get that this is a sports case, but I would argue that any successful person, if you are flaunting your wealth in any way that people know, and that's why like people are up on, social media going, I make this amount of money a month. Y'all will never hear me say that. Because when people do that, it attracts the wrong people. And if your fence isn't high enough and your grass ain't low enough, the snakes get through. The snakes get through, right? And so for Stefon, I feel, the case, even with the chef and all of that, he was acquitted and all of that. It didn't based on what the jury found or the judge or whoever, he was acquitted. But you still, your image takes a hit when people see you attached to certain things. And a lot of people out here in this world, they want what you have. They don't want to do the work to get what you have. They just want what you have. That's an important distinction to make. So if you're an athlete or you're a hustle, whatever it is that you do, and you working every day, like, hey, I'm up late and I've been writing scripts and doing all this stuff, and now I'm up here now. The person don't want to do all that part. They just want the end result. And so a lot of us have to look at what we really bring to the table, and we really have to see our value and stop necessarily, why do we need an entourage? Because I believe sometimes if we didn't need so many taggers on, people who just want to come with you, you going in a club and you got 25 people with you, I think that would eliminate some of the problems, the lawsuits that come down the pipe, because some of these people are simply jealous of you. They don't like you. They're jealous of you. They are envious of you. They're not trying to help you. They're trying to hurt you. They're trying to get the bag, right? They're not trying to, they're not going to ever do anything to really support you. Why is it that we're not seeing that, right? So why is that? You know what I mean? So there's just this element, that I think people who don't see their value will continue to become a victim of people who are 110% opportunists. So let me know how you feel about that. We're going to get into that. I'm going to read, if you have any comments in the chat, we're going to read into that. All right. Our second story today is about Lizzo. Lizzo is one of my favorite artists. I love her. I loved, her coming out, what she was about, and everything. And I actually have recorded a video today. I got to put it up. I got to finish editing it. But she has been, let me give you guys some little facts about this, just because I wanted to talk about it and just get your temperature on it. So she has an album called, BITCH, right on Atlantic. It was released June 5th. The first week it sold 2,649 copies. Now it did have 2.7 million on-demand streams, but it missed the Billboard 200 entirely, right? The second week sales, which would have been, I guess, June 12th, the sales fell further to 650 units. Now streams are down to 900,000. Now this is, if there are any music lovers in the building, this is a steep drop from, 2022 Special album, which debuted at number 2 with 39,000 copies and 69,000 equivalent units, right? Now, Lizzo has been making the rounds on social media. She has been talking about, her album not doing that well, people not purchasing it, and so forth. And she's talked about this sort of being, quote unquote, soul crushing. And she says she spent 24 hours tying her worth to the number of, basically the number of albums sold before her friend SZA talked her back from it. Says the industry shifted, streaming replaced radio, and radio was how her core fans found her. I think it's very interesting, but I think that there are so many elements going on right now as to why people aren't purchasing albums, purchasing music, the way that they used to. The economy, for a lot of people, the economy on a whole has been down for the last couple of years, right? So you can't necessarily expect that if people are, saying, okay, well, I have disposable income is cut in half. I want to buy an album that I would have bought, ever how many years ago, but now my disposable income is cut in half. I think the economy is a big part of this conversation. I also think that artists really walk a tightrope between, complaining and also like being authentic and stuff like that. And I think when you veer a little bit into sounding like you complaining, I think that can essentially turn off your fan base. And I think that some of the things that Lizzo has said has been a little turn offish to her fan base. I think that just doing a temperature, and I love Lizzo as an artist. I love her music. I'm definitely going to stream it and listen to it and so forth like that. And that's why I wanted to include her in the live to help promote, and get the word out. But the CNN did a piece on 3 former backup dancers that are still suing her. Sexual harassment, hostile was a sexual harassment, hostile workplace suit from 2023. It's still active, though the body shaming claim was dismissed. Now, this includes one plaintiff explicitly saying she believes the lawsuit played a larger factor in the low sales than anything about the music itself. And this is something that, going back to the Stefon Diggs case as well, I think sometimes when you have these lawsuits, or you have these different dust ups publicly or legally, and even if you're innocent, even if you haven't done anything wrong, there's still a stench that is attached to your image because something has happened with you. Do you feel what I'm saying? So even if Lizzo is innocent from this suit, similar to how Diggs was found not guilty with the Chef Mila case, right? He was acquitted, right? But all of who remembers what she was saying in court? Everybody remembers how ridiculous it was, even though he was acquitted. And that's, again, it goes back to my first point. If you have nothing to lose, right? If you have something to lose versus you have something to lose, you move different. You move different. And I just want to say the other thing, and this is in my video, and when I drop the video, I think I'm going to drop it tonight or tomorrow. I want you guys to check it out, because the other thing I want to say out loud, and I say it in my video, is that Lizzo has changed so much from when she came on the scene in 2019 to who she is today. And I'm talking about her image, what she looks like. She's done all of this weight loss stuff. She looks fantastic. And I'm going to say something that's probably going to offend some people. A lot of people, when you start doing better for yourself, a lot of people don't want you to do better for yourself. Okay? If you're always known as the fat friend, you're always known as the broke friend, you're always known as the single friend. When people put you in these boxes and attach these labels to you, and you grow beyond those labels, a lot of people have a problem with you. And we don't want to hear that, because we want to believe everybody is happy for us and all of that, like kumbaya. It's just not true. It's just not true. How many of the fans, or how many people who call themselves fans, and they see she's taking care of herself, she's bringing her weight down, she's doing all these things that she seems to be glowing from the inside out, how many of those people are mad at her glow up? You know what I'm saying? Jealousy and envy is real. You feel me? Jealousy and envy is real. And when you come in the game and you're the quote unquote fat girl and people are like, oh, let me support her, she bigger than me. I'm going to keep it real with y'all. And now you doing all this stuff. Melissa got her stuff together, right? A lot of people who liked you because they felt they was a step above, now that you are doing your glow up, they don't want to support you. How many people, when you're the single friend and then you start dating or you get married, how many people stop messing with you? Okay, when you was the broke friend and now you have money, how many people don't mess with you now because you're not in the same tax bracket as they are? You know what I'm saying? So again, it's like you got the most to lose. And like I said before, you need to have your fence high and your grass cut low, because if not, the snakes get through. And the reality is you will eventually find out in your life who is really your friend, who is really going to support you, who is really down for you, because they can't pretend forever. And so I want to say to Lizzo, because I know she gets on social media, keep promoting your album. Keep on doing your music. You're still an inspiration, you know, and I think body positivity can become body toxicity because people don't want to allow you to be great. When you make a change in your life, sometimes people don't really want you to grow. It's the craziest thing. It's like people are comfortable. And you guys think about this, okay? Think about this. I want you to listen. I want us to have a dialogue about this. In your family, every person in your family has almost a label or an expectation. This is the smart one. This is the person who's going to take care of everybody. This person, this is the go along to get along person. This person, this is the drunk. This is the alcoholic. This is the drug user. We attach titles and labels and expectations to people. And soon as they start growing outside of those expectations, a lot of us start feeling comfortable because wait, if he's no longer the drunk, how does that impact the label that I've assigned to myself? If she's no longer the fat girl, right? She's no longer the biggest girl in our group. Am I now the biggest girl in our group? You feel where I'm coming from? So let me know how you guys feel about that. As we get through, I got 5 stories we're going to do today. And so our third story, y'all, listen. Y'all know I love my sports. Y'all know I'm a sociologist. I'm a TV writer. But I love me some sports. And so Angel Reese, you know, I listen. Y'all know I love me some Angel Reese, okay? I love her all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. But what makes me love her is that she works hard. She the hardest worker on the floor. People can say what they want about her. They can call her names. They can say all the things about her, me bounds. They can say whatever they want about her. But she gonna out hustle 90% of the people on the floor. You know what I'm saying? She gonna out hustle 90% of the people on the floor. On God. Say what you want. Argue with your mama. I don't care. So on July 13th, Atlanta played the LA Sparks. And Atlanta, as you know, was coming back from a losing streak, which I thought was kind of whack anyway, because they played one team like 3 times in a row. Like, that is so strange. Like, I get why you have to do it that way, but then it's just so whack, because if you haven't figured out the solution to beat that team, you can rack up a bunch of losses in one time. But let's talk about Angel Reese versus the LA Sparks. Atlanta wins 101-92, right? So they beat them basically by 9 points, right? Fantastic. But our girl has 23 points, 13 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 assists. And I just have to say this, and I hope my Angel Reese fans are in my chat, because y'all know when I get to these questions, y'all, we going to be going back and forth. 23 points, 13 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 assists. People spend their time They get off work and they got their anti-Angel Reese comments, right? They got, you know what I'm saying? They taking their coffee break at work. They're on the Facebook making their Angel Reese comments, okay? You know what I'm saying? They at the water cooler, like she is on their mind, right? She is on their mind. And this young lady keeps on going and keeps on doing what she has to do. She was 7 for 11 for shooting, 7 for 11 shooting, 8 for 8 from the free throw line. 8 for 8. I think that's 100%. I was a sociology major, so my math is a little fuzzy. I think that's 100%, right? She hit her third 3-pointer of the season. It was a corner three. It wasn't beautiful. It still went in. The game tied 87-87, sparking a 9-0 run. Her coach, Carl Smesco, called it the payoff of months of practice court work. You know what I'm saying? So just hear what I'm saying. Even if you didn't see the game is tied, right? She makes a 3-pointer. She hasn't been making a bunch of 3-pointers this season. She makes a 3-pointer, sparks the energy on the team, 9-0 run, right? This is her 16th. This game, her 23 points, 13 rebounds, is her 16th double-double of the season. It's the most in the WNBA. And the reason why I love her is because she knows the things, the negative things, the hate that she gets and this and that, and she gonna still come out and do this. So I always say, if she can deal with all the hate she deal with and still come out here and do what she do, why can't we do what we gotta do? I don't know what you do for a living. I don't know what you doing at home. I don't know what you doing at your job. But what I'm saying is this girl comes out and she represents. And if you don't believe me about the hate and the shade that she gets, go to the Yasmin Shiraz Facebook page and look at any of my Angel Reese videos, of which I have many. Look at any of them and you will see I just have comment upon comment upon comment. And note, I've deleted a whole lot of them. Okay? And so this was her return from injury. She missed the prior game, July 11th versus Portland, with an ankle or foot issue or whatever. It snapped a stretch where the Dream had lost 6 of their last 7. I saw some highlights and so forth. In addition, she was so fired up. And I'm just saying, when your team is in the hole, this is who you want. This is who you want in the trenches with you. People can say what they want about Angel Reese. They can say what they want, but she's going to outwork 90% of the people on the floor. Argue with your mama on that. So all 5 Dream starters for this game scored in double figures for the fourth time this season. I have a video that comes out tomorrow about the WNBA All-Star Game voting being rigged. And why am I saying that? Because of this stuff right here that we talking about. How's she getting 23 points, 13 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 assists, and she can't even be a starter? Make it make sense. How can all 5 Dream starters score in the double figures and we can't get any of them on the All-Star team unless a coach votes them in? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Now, we know because of the correction and because of the adjustment, Angel Reese, Alicia Gray, and Ryan Howard are all headed to the WNBA All-Star game in Chicago, and that's happening on July 25th. But, you know, so many people have talked about her game, what it looks like, but you cannot look at Angel Reese in 2026 and not acknowledge her growth, her improvement, her hustle, her heart, her dedication to the game. And if you are able to do that, if you're able to deny all of that, you are blind and you are a fool. All right, so let's keep going, you guys. We got the receipts. Thank you so much for showing up. My name is Yasmin Shiraz, and I have 2, stories. I talked about this a little bit in my live yesterday, and this is the cyclosporiasis, and that is the explosive diarrhea outbreak. Listen, I am sharing this stuff because it's important. So let me explain to you guys what is going on. I try to eat healthy as much as I can. I want my kids to eat healthy. I try to do all the things. Cyclosporiasis is an infection from a parasite. It has hit and traveled to 31 states. I do not know what state that you're in, but we have sources reporting in every day from 31 to 34 states. Okay. So this is a multi-state outbreak. Okay. The main symptom is sudden, watery, frequently explosive diarrhea, can also cause nausea, vomiting, cramping, bloating, low fever, fatigue. And symptoms can start 2 days, 2 weeks after exposure, and untreated can drag on for weeks in a on and off pattern. Now, what the deal is, I'm going to just share. I don't want to sort of bore you with this, but I do think it's important. So how it's spread is contaminated food or water, right? And so person to person spread is unlikely or what have you. But here's what actually works, okay? They're saying that rinsing your vegetables, fresh vegetables, with roughly 1 part vinegar to 3 to 6 parts water, soaked and swished, has some research support for helping rinse off some of the parasite load. It does not kill it, okay? And so what I have been seeing on reports is like, don't be eating berries right now, like blueberries, strawberries, blackberries. Don't do it because it just has a higher incident of having the parasite. Okay. Now, what the CDC is saying, and I'm just sharing this because we need to know, you got to trust somebody out here to get the information to you. And y'all know I'm going to keep it real. CDC's own position, routine chemical disinfection / sanitizing is unlikely to reliably kill Cyclospora. Okay. On my thumbnail today, I have these little red circles because that was the photo of what the thing is. Listen, I'm trying, people. I'm trying. Okay. But water alone doesn't remove it either. So this is the only confirmed way to kill it is heat. So you have to cook your produce to 158 degrees. Okay. So therefore, if there's any produce that you're normally eating raw and it's been identified, like berries have been identified, we need to just skip them for a while. Because you're not about to, like, what you going to do? Bake some berries? What you doing? Okay. Like, I don't know, put them in a pie. I don't know what you're doing. But so I'm saying pull back on them berries, some strawberries, them blueberries. You need to go ahead and pull back on them. Right? Unless you're willing to cook them to 158 degrees. Okay. Now let me share some practical CDC state health guidance. Buy whole heads of lettuce instead of pre-washed bags. Do not be buying the pre-washed bags anymore. Okay. Discard outer leaves. Okay. So y'all know the outer leaf of the situation. Discard it. Okay. Wash remaining leaves underwater. And when possible, cook leafy greens rather than eating raw. Okay. So say, you normally are eating lettuce and spinach raw now. No, cook the spinach. Cook it. Okay. It's your girl, Yasmin Shiraz. I'm always going to keep it real. And I know I'm a sports and entertainment show. This is a little safety announcement because I don't want us getting sick. Okay. Scrub firm produce. Scrub firm produce. So that's going to be melons, and cucumbers with a brush. Okay. So I just want to let you know about that. Now, if you end up having this situation, you get this infection or whatever, it does require a 10-day course of an antibiotic. Okay, so I just want to, share this with you. It is not life-threatening, okay? But dehydration is a real danger. And you guys, listen, knowledge is power. I want us to be as powerful as possible. Okay. So I want to say that. My last story for the night before we go into the chat and see what you guys are talking about is the Nolan Wells case. I really struggle with these types of stories because I'm somewhat emotional. I have a son myself. I have a daughter as well. But when I see these types of stories, it just breaks my heart all over again. And I'm very, like I said, emotional. I see stories, I feel things. That's what I think makes me be able to write and connect with people easily. But what people don't know, the downside is you feel so many stories so deeply, it's very hard for you. So I wanted to talk about the Nolan Wells case in a different way. And a lot of people have been going online and talking about Black parents who are putting their children in predominantly white environments, whether it's predominantly white schools, whether it's predominantly white, neighborhoods, whatever it is. And they've really been sort of blaming the victim. And I think that for Black Americans, segregation, integration, everything, the American dream, I think that a lot of that has been confusing. And I think that until you experience certain levels of things, you don't even understand the dangers. And so let me explain a little bit about what that means. If you grow up in a bad, quote unquote, neighborhood, and it's a predominantly minority neighborhood, and you start to think, well, I'm going to put my kid in a neighborhood that supports education, and it happens to not be a majority minority neighborhood, is that in and of itself a bad thing? No, not necessarily. But the thing that we're missing is that how are we supporting our children socially and culturally and making sure that they understand what it means to be Black in America. And I think that is something that even the parent who is trying to check all the boxes does not realize that I've missed this box. That is why, for example, HBCUs are so important, meaning that if you have become a successful person, you move into a environment that's a predominantly white environment, and you're like, hey, I'm here because of the schools, I'm here because of the home values, what have you, and that's your decision. You and your spouse make this decision. You cannot forsake your child, your Black child, and not have them understand what it is to be Black in America. That means, Black relatives, what is their relationships with that? What do they know about Black history? What do they know about HBCUs? What do they know about things that are going to fortify their Blackness in a country where they remain targeted? They remain targets. It's very, very important. And a lot of times I'll meet with people and they'll say, like they'll have a child who's getting ready to go off to college, and they'll say, yeah, I can't send my kid to a Black college because I can't get the scholarships or I can't get the money. Well, that is not always true. And it's something that people say so they don't have to do the work to find out if they can get the money. I graduated from Hampton University a long time ago, but my son was the valedictorian this year at Morehouse. I didn't pay a coin, okay, because they made sure that he got scholarships, and I didn't qualify for financial aid. And so the reason why I'm saying this is that I said to my son, you need to be around strong Black men. Strong Black men are here at this school. What you're going to get from being around these type of people, you will never get at a PWI. You cannot measure it. You cannot calculate it. It is just the value of it. You cannot even put a price on. And so one of the things that like we think that a black college is too expensive, when in many, many cases, it is quite the opposite, because the self-esteem and the affirmation that a black child is going to get from attending a HBCU, that's going to help propel them throughout their life with not only their jobs or whatever, but their identity. And so a lot of people have been, and you know them, you know the people who want to be the only black people in the room, right? You know, it's an illness. It's an illness. If you think you're the only, I'm the only black person in the HR department. I'm the only black person here at the C-suite. I'm the only black person, right? Like, that's not a flex. That's not a flex. Because if something go left, you the only black person. You the only black person. But we're brainwashed into thinking that in 2026, we should still be the only black person. We should not be the only black person. And if you find yourself being the only black person, if you find your kids being the only black person, you're probably in the wrong location. You're probably in the wrong situation. But we've been brainwashed to be one of one. Oh, I'm going to be the only one here. Oh, I'm going to be the only one. Like, that's a flex, baby. It's not a flex. If you find yourself in a situation where you're the only black person, the first thing that you should be doing is trying to bring in the second black person. That's what you should be doing, straight up and down. I was doing some producing for one of the Fortune 500. You guys may know I'm a TV producer, writer, and podcast. I was doing podcasts as well. And every black person, there weren't a lot at this, at this company, but every black person, I would just, okay, let me go and meet this person. Oh, let me go get this person. Now, I was meeting other people as well. I was meeting white people and I was meeting Latino. I was meeting everybody, right? But there was not going to be a black person on my floor and I'm in there working and we're not in the same department and I don't know them. Because I don't believe that, because one-on-one is not a flex. One-on-one is not a flex. And we need to stop thinking like that, because it puts us in danger and it puts our children in danger. Okay. So I just wanted to share that, but let's go into Nolan Wells a little bit. July 3rd, Wells, 18, and this is the young guy in Mississippi. He had dinner with his family, heads out to spend night with his friends ahead of the holiday weekend, right? Wells and three white friends. He's black, they're white, right? They take a boat to Horn Island, and there's no facility, no communications or what have you, 10 miles off the Mississippi coast to celebrate the 4th, right? Between 3 to 4:30, he's last seen on the beach, and these type of stories, I hate them because it just sounds like a horror movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, me even reading my notes, it's like, okay. Accounts conflict. One friend's mother, a Jackson County Chancery judge, says the boat had bilge pump trouble and that Nolan made a decision to stay on the island, to come back later with another group. Ben Crump says the friend's account is that Wells said he'd stay and talk to a young woman, while the young woman's account is that Wells told her he was going back to the boat with the boys. A direct contradiction Crump has flagged publicly. And so already you got these contradictions, like, where he at? Why is nobody accountable for where he is? Like, you know what I'm saying? And this is what I'm talking about when I say being one of one is not a flex. If you're walking around thinking you're the only black person in wherever you are and you're flexing, you are not flexing. Okay? And that's what I'm saying. There is safety in numbers, and I know it's something we hear when you're little, and you don't, as you get older, you don't think about it. We still need to have that same attitude. So late that night, one of Wells's friends calls his mother, Christine Wells Wansley, around 11 p.m. to report him missing. She reports it to authorities and posts publicly asking for information. And so what's very interesting to me is he's last seen between 3 to 4:30 p.m. and at 11 p.m. they report him missing, right? So this is like 8 hours, 7.5 to 8 hours. On June 6th, which was basically July 4th. So July 6th, his body is found in the water. And so he is in fact deceased. So I don't know. I'm saddened by this, obviously, and a lot of people have done a lot of think pieces and a lot of, this type of stuff, talking about it, and it's just heartbreaking to me. So it's hard for me really to talk about it, right? But what I will say is that we have to teach our children about how to be safe, and that safety is in numbers and things like that, and to keep their head on a swivel. And I think one of the biggest disservices to us as a people with integration in America is that we began to buy into the idea that we were safe, and we were safe around all people. And the fact simply remains is that we aren't. And no, we don't want to admit it. And no, for some people, you're being critical. You always got something negative to say. Okay, cool. But it's still a fact that we've bought into the idea that we are always safe, when the reality is we are not always safe. Now, here are some things that are disputed and unresolved. His phone, Wells's mother tracked it via Life 360 and found it at one of the friends' houses before police did. As a mother, as a Black mom, this would bother me. Why does someone have my son's phone and they haven't let me know they have my son's phone? That would bother me. Crump has repeatedly flagged this as strange. Hey, I'm no Crump, but I believe that's the truth. What teenager leaves their phone behind? And the mother says she found no saved Snapchat photos or videos from that day, which she considers suspicious. Now, from what I take from that is her son must be, Snapchatting and things like that. So someone went into his phone, deleted things or whatever. A viral video of someone yelling near the island on July 4th circulated widely. One of Wells's friends, Trayston Shepard, has publicly said on Good Morning America that the voice is his, not Wells, and there was no altercation involving Wells. So, who was yelling? Okay. And if it's saying it was his, what was he saying? You know what I'm saying? So it's all these things that go on. And in the other case, Carmelo Anthony case, where he's at this track meet, you guys know the story. I don't have to, talk about that really. But again, we buy into this idea that we're safe. And you need to be in more than one. You need to be more than one of one to be safe. And that's something that I hold that dear to my heart. And I'm going to open it up. I can't even keep on reading. This is so sad. All right, you guys, I'm going to see if there's anybody in here with me today for the Yasmin breakdown. This is We Got Receipts edition of the breakdown. So I'm going to see if anybody's in here, see if you have any comments. We went over 5 stories today, and my heart just breaks on the Nolan Wells case. It's very hard for me to watch it, to know about it, because we're just not as safe as we think we are. So, all right. So thank you so much. So I didn't have nobody in the chat saying anything today, but thank you so much for that. Thank you for so much for coming on. And this was the picture. I didn't put the picture up. So again, it's heavy for me. This is the picture of Nolan. This is the picture of Nolan Wells, you guys. And, so the investigators, let me just, complete this story out before we go for the evening. The investigators have specifically asked the public for original unedited photos and videos from the day, particularly those depicting alleged altercations or images including Wells, and are investigating online reports of a possible altercation on the island. And one of the things that this illusion of safety, right, that we have as people, as Black people, as women, and what have you, like we think that we're safer than we are. And, who's going to submit some unedited videos and photos? Do I believe that they're going to do that? No, because people are too interested in covering up stuff. And so again, this idea about, I'm flexing because I'm one of one. Well, when you're one of one, you have nobody who has your back. You have no one, right? So that's part of your one-on-one. Final autopsy cause of death has not been released. The toxicology is pending. The family with Crump commissioned an independent autopsy funded by Colin Kaepernick. That is our, kneeling quarterback who basically had his career ended because, he protested, the death of George Floyd. But the independent autopsy is supposed to happen because there have concerns about how the case would have been handled given Mississippi's history. To say in 2026 that we have to have an independent autopsy because we cannot trust the state of Mississippi, that is crazy talk in 2026, and yet absolutely true. Crump has explicitly invoked Emmett Till in that framing. And this is what I'm saying, about people of color. This is what I'm talking about, Black people, right? You being the only person, not a flex. Not a flex. Not a flex. And, and sometimes, let me say this, we don't often admit how jealous people are of us. We don't often realize, and we assume, we take people at face value. As soon as something happens, they show us who they are. But we're so willing to be accepted. We're so willing to be validated. We continue to open ourselves up and we become vulnerable to people who don't like us, right? Who don't like us. And so in the start of the video, in the start of this live, I talked about Stefon Diggs and that case, right? And this guy, he got two suits, one settled with one brother, and now he got this one with Stefon. These people who you're so concerned of associating with, they don't like you. When I get the vibe that somebody don't really like me, I'm out. I'm out because I don't want to be on the receiving end of your dislike. I don't want to be on the receiving end of your dislike for me. There's something in relationships that I've heard, many, many times, and that is for women, don't let a man have to tell you twice he don't want you. This is the same energy. If somebody doesn't want you, if somebody shows you that they are, jealous of you in some kind of way, hating on you some kind of way, you don't know the depths of what they would try to do to you at your weakest moment. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why when people say, like, again, this is not only if you're a famous athlete, this is everyday people. This is not just if you're pursuing a relationship, right? This is everybody, and so that's why I wanted to bring up this particular case. If you have any comments about the stories, please put them in the chat. I can address whatever you have before we wrap up today. Tyler Perry is covering the funeral costs. It's going down in 6 days. It's going down in July 20th in Biloxi. Sheriff Ledbetter says he hasn't been able to interview the friends directly because they've retained counsel, and maintains the department is treating it like any other case while acknowledging it's going to take a lot of hard work. The fact that he could say it's any other case where it's this teen boy, essentially, who nobody knows what happened to him, and you're treating it like any other case. No, you shouldn't treat it like any other case. You should treat it like this is the most important case you ever had. In closing, I just wanted to say about, to my audience, particularly my Black viewers, that being one of one is not a flex. Continue to teach your kids about safety, being in numbers, doing things together, and that they don't need the validation from people who don't look like them just for validation's sake. It is unsafe, it is unwise, and it leads to some really catastrophic ends. So I wanted to share that today, and I wanted to thank everybody for watching the Yasmin Breakdown. I want this to be something we do a couple of times a week, where we get on and we talk about some of the stories. And may Nolan rest in peace. And you guys, let's just send prayers up as well to his family, to his father, and to his mother. I can imagine, I haven't had the experience. I can imagine that it's not easy. I can imagine that, as all of us are mourning this loss in our own way, but it's just always a reminder that we're not safe, and what can we do to be more safe? And that's really what the conversation should be for us, is how can we become more safe in a society that often makes us a target. So thank you so much for tonight for coming in. If you like these type of breakdowns, please check out my site, yasminbreakdown.com. And also go to my Patreon page, Support Independent Media. That's what we have given up on. BET Plus is gone. BET's owned by other people. If we do not support our own independent media, we can't be mad when we don't have any. All right, y'all. Peace, and see you next time.